Like I was almost to the point where I was done. Like if you would have called me a week or two later, it probably would have been too late.
Don't trust your feelings because a lot of times your feelings will lie to you.
Yeah.
And you can easily talk yourself into things and talk yourself out of things, right? If you want a car, man, you could talk yourself into buying that car and justify it or vice versa, right?
You're not the only one going through what you're going through, and people just don't talk about it because they're embarrassed or, ashamed or whatever.
Welcome to the Biz Life Podcast. I am Donnie Bedore, your host. We're here to talk about the business life, not the busy life. So today we actually have a special episode planned for you. Well, not much planning, I think, really. But I don't know. I think we've been planning for this for 17 years now. And for those that follow the channel, first of all, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. This channel is really dedicated to the small business owner. One thing that I realize is that, inspiration, dedication, motivation, man, it really is something that we have to focus on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, right? And so I've just wanted to be a light to those that are the listeners and those that are out there, running your own business, running, just life in general, more on the business sense, of course. But, one thing that I've realized is that it's very difficult, at least for me, to separate business and your regular life, right? I always tell people, whenever it comes to me, whatever you see is what you get, right? I definitely can't be someone, after hours and someone different during hours. I'm the same person. So today we have a special guest, the most specialist guest, the prettiest guest ever in the whole wide world is my wife, Celeena Bedore. Welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. In the past, we've talked about, living life together and doing business together with your husband or your spouse and things like that, and your journey. If you haven't watched those episodes, then go back. I'll put it in the description below. Some of our past episodes you can go back and watch. Today is a very special day. For those that have followed me on social media, now this episode is 2 weeks, we're about 2 or 3 weeks behind. So today, while we were recording this, is January 14th.
Yep.
Why is that special?
That is the day 31 years ago that you asked me to be your girlfriend.
Aw, that's
January
right.
14th, 1994.
And I did it. I did that strategically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our 1 month anniversary would be Valentine's Day.
Right.
Yeah.
And that matters when you're 16 and 17 years old. Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. So, yeah. So today is we always call it our anniversary, even though we've been married before, and we're going to get into that story a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
So really what I wanted this episode to be is just us real and raw. There's a lot of people that know us about, they know of us. Mm-hmm. They know, our business life because that's what they see a lot, but there's a lot behind the scenes that we've gone through. And what I find out is a lot of people have gone through stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd just like to dive into that story. But before we get to that story, let's talk about, that day that I actually get down on my knee. I remember it.
Yeah.
Did I take you out to eat that day?
No, you came to the house and we did homework. We were doing, I say homework.
Homework.
No. It was me and you and Celeste.
Yeah.
My sister. And, we were just hanging out, doing homework, catching up on schoolwork. And I guess you were leaving, we were in my driveway. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I remember getting down on one knee and I just remembered that, I was so in love with you. I still am, but I was so in love with you that I was like, man, this girl, I could see me being with her forever. And at 16 years old, what do we really know?
I had no idea that was going through your mind at that time.
Yeah, I knew it. So that's why I got down on my knee and asked you to be my girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show you how dedicated I was.
Yeah, I got it. I received it. Obviously, I said yes.
Yeah. So to me, it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
But before we get into some of the other stuff, I want you to share a little bit because I share the story all the time. I share the story all the time. Share with our audience how we met.
Well, I can only give you my version of it.
Give me your version.
No, so yeah, we were in high school together. Apparently you had class with my twin sister, Celeste, and y'all were friends first. Before that, I had seen you in the hallway, and then I don't know, for, Gen Xers, when we were in school and we had the toss testing, remember you had to go into the rooms according to your last name, like A through D was in one room. And so anyway, we were in the same classroom because both of our last names start with a B. And so that's when I really remember seeing you and putting two and two together that you and Celeste were friends. And I even went up to Celeste and I'm like, you're friends with somebody like that?
What does that mean? Like that?
I mean, I thought you were cute. Like you were cute and popular and, you're built because you're a gymnast and like all the things, right? That would attract a 16-year-old girl.
All the check boxes.
And my sister, I didn't hang out with her. We had we had different friends groups because she was in band. I was in athletics. So, I was like, you're friends with somebody like that? Anyway, and she's like, yeah. And that's really all that was said. Huh. And then, I seen you in the hallway passing through and from time to time during passing periods, but never really didn't pursue anything after that. I think you pursued me more than I pursued you, but, anyway, I don't know if it was before or after this. Yeah. You had already asked Celeste to go out. And she was already with somebody else. Yeah.
As Paul Harvey says, now the rest of the story, right? Exactly. So the rest of the story, from my vantage point, right? I'm in English class and I see this girl and she's really cute, right? I mean, she's your twin sister. And yes, they are identical twins, right? And so I see this girl, she's really cute, nice, and bubbly and everything. And so talking to her, and of course, me being a young guy, single at the time, had question I had to ask, and it's like, are you dating anybody? And she said yes. And of course the second question you ask after that is it serious? And she said yes again. So I was like, damn it. Okay. But then she said the best 3-letter word I've ever heard. She said, but I have a twin sister.
That's more than 3 words, but whatever.
No, 3-letter word.
Oh, okay.
But, B-U-T. She said, but I have a sister. And she's a twin sister. And I'm like, are you all identical? It's like, yep. I'm like, well, I guess you can throw out a blind date because I know what she looks like. And so I was like, all right, well, yeah, I'd love to meet her. And then the next day, it was crazy. The next day I see you. I don't know if it's just one of those things, like whenever you get a red truck, you see red trucks everywhere, right? And I had my mind, thinking about you. And then I saw you in the hallway. And she was in band. You were in volleyball. You were very athletic. And I was like, holy crap, I found like the unicorn. And so I ran back to English class. I ran to English class and said, yeah, sign me up. I need to talk to this girl.
Well, okay. So let's go back because you're like, but I have a sister.
Well, she was dating.
So for 31 years.
Yeah.
We made the joke of how I'm second best.
No. Now, you see, you can mine for jewels and you can find some emeralds and stuff. But if you keep mining, you'll find the diamond. And that's what I found.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's how I keep her for 31 years.
Mine yourself out of that hole. Anyway.
So yeah, this episode is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So we'll start with that. Right. And then, and we're basically just going to share our story. Right. And hopefully at the end of this, you might be inspired. You might, want to call your spouse or your loved one and just tell them, you know what, I love you. And I know we're going through stuff, but if they can make it, we can make it.
If we can make it, they can make it.
I'm telling you, there is absolutely nothing that can happen in your marriage that you can't make it.
That's true.
Nothing. There's nothing that can happen because we've been through it all.
Yep.
And so, yeah. So anyway, we're going back to our story, right? We're in high school, we're dating. And then
we were were together for 2 years, and then you proposed.
So we're after high school.
Mhm.
We graduated a couple years after that. Then I proposed. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then after that, we broke up.
We did.
We broke up. Yep.
Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that later. How many times has Donnie come back around? Anyway, but yeah, we broke up. I think it was maybe 3 months.
Yeah.
Just one
It's just one of
miserable
those-
summer. Yeah.
I think that stemmed just from us not knowing really our purpose in
Yeah,
life.
we were 19, didn't have a clue what direction. I didn't have any direction. I know that for sure.
And be honest with you, my thinking at that time was probably like, I want to hang out with my friends and she wants to hang out with me. And so now it's like, okay, which way do I go? And chose my friends or whatever, some stupid random
Well, and I
thing
had
like
some
that.
lessons I had to learn. I was jealous of the time you spent with your friends and, felt that if I wanted to spend time with you, it had to be with your friends or under the hood of a car or whatever. And
Well, that was 90% of our time. So
yeah, but I mean, there was some growing I had to do too. So it's not just your fault.
Oh, no. And I get that, this whole thing is not just one way, right?
Oh yeah.
And life is not just one way.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then we got married in May 2nd of 1998.
Mhm.
Yep. And I remember I had, we both tried college.
Yeah.
I think I tried one class of a half of a semester.
Yeah, I
and
think I
it's
did
like,
half a semester.
This is stupid.
I did one whole semester.
Yeah. It just wasn't for me. Right. But then I decided, you know what? I really wanted to become a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Lannon was,
No.
oh, this is pre-Lannon.
It's before we got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So in 97, fall of 97, you started school. You went to fire academy.
Okay.
And then, because remember, you graduated a week before our wedding.
That's right.
Yeah. You graduated and I turned 21 a week before we got married. So, yeah.
So that was in 97. 98 is when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
That was May of 98.
Mm-hmm.
And then August of 98 was a huge pinnacle shift for us.
Yes. Yeah. I think this is looking back, this is like kind of where everything was being crafted. And I say that now because I know what God's done
Sure.
and what he was doing.
Yep.
But you could also say this is when it started kind of falling apart too.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, tell that story.
Yeah, so in August of 98, we were saved.
Yeah.
We received the Lord and we were baptized together. We joined our first church in Burleson together, just newly married. And then shortly after that, we found out I was pregnant. And so it was May, get married, August, become believers. And then, of course, that's a whole shift in life, right? And I think looking back, your life changed. You did a total 180.
Yeah.
Like you were like headed one way and you pivot and went totally, the other way. And for me, it didn't do that. It didn't happen for me like that. It was, yes, did I know the choice I made, but it wasn't like I wasn't on fire like you were.
Yeah.
You were all in, right? And I think that's what you do with everything.
I was about to say, what's funny is as you're talking, right? I'm like, that's what we do now.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what you do. That's what you do. I still have to tiptoe and get my foot in there and see if I like it or not. And, I put walls up, and I did that in my relationship with the Lord too.
Yeah.
Put walls up. But, so we were not on the same path. We were running the same race. I think you were just running ahead of me, right? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't falling behind, but
You weren't sprinting.
You wanted to run and I wanted to walk.
No,
and so caused a lot of tension.
Yeah.
What you probably meant by discipling and ministering to me and helping me really was received as judgment, condemnation. Not that you meant to. It's indirect, right? But it's just the way I received it.
Yeah.
But so therefore it was like, I don't know, I think that's where the separation started, down to the music we listened to. If I wanted to listen to my music, I had to wait. I was in this car by myself. If we were in the car together, we listened to your music. And because you threw out all your CDs. I remember you tossed all your secular stuff.
Yeah, Pearl Jam was a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, that's just, so just even in that big moment of what is supposed to be a great thing in life,
Yeah.
even turned out to be rather challenging. And again, we're 21 years old, just got married. I still didn't have any direction. I was waiting tables, you know. I loved what I did. I was having fun, but no direction. And then the May of the next year, right before after our 1 year anniversary, we had a kid.
Right.
And then 2 years after that, had another kid. And 2 years after that, had another kid. And so, yeah, life just took off and we were just trying to do the best we could. Yeah.
There's some good times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, so, man, I don't know where I was going with that, but.
Well, we were just talking about our story, what we've been through, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
Looking back, we can see that's where it started.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, so after the kids were born, I had, we were going to a church in Burleson, and I felt really called to be a youth minister. And I didn't want to be the youth minister, but I really wanted to help.
Yeah, because you had a full-time job.
Yeah, full-time job. I was working in the RV industry, and then so I became an assistant youth minister, really. And you were there.
Yeah, when I could be.
When you could be with the kids, and a lot of times the kids were there.
Yeah.
Right. And then probably a couple years, 2-3 years into that, I remember feeling called to go to seminary school. And then so I was working full-time. Also helping out with youth ministry, and then at night going to seminary school.
Yeah.
How the heck did you deal with all that?
Well, I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And I was the only one really working at the time because.
Yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, you stayed home.
It was actually cheaper for me to be at home than it was to pay for childcare, being, didn't really have an established career.
Yep.
Being so young. So.
Lived in a little trailer, little single wide trailer out in Venus.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I did it because that's what moms do.
Yeah.
And it's inherent. It's in our genes. It's in our DNA. So, I mean, I don't regret it. I spent time with my kids. And this time Landon had started school.
Yeah. Yeah, he was 6, kindergarten, first grade.
So, yeah.
Yep. And then after that, we'd moved to Burleson.
We moved so Landon was 1 when we moved back in with your parents. Remember that? And then brought Jacob home. I was pregnant with Jacob.
Yeah.
So we were there for about 9 months. And then we got our first little house in Burleson.
Yeah.
And then, 2 years after that, Gracie came along.
Right.
Little 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, maybe 1,100 square foot house.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was our first home that we bought. Well, our second. We bought the first home, but yeah. It was an upgrade.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Go from a trailer home to a brick home.
Yeah.
And then, at that point, I, seems like, year after year went on, got more involved. And then, did we move? Yeah, we moved churches at the time. The Lord actually called, or I felt the Lord was calling me to be a full-time, or not full-time youth minister, but the actual youth minister of a church.
And we got called from Cross Timber to Alvarado at Greenbrier.
Yeah.
That was Landon's kindergarten year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the kids were 1, 3, and 5. So yeah, shortly after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so, I took over, had my own youth ministry that was responsible for, still going full time and still going to seminary school.
Yeah.
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 And that was, I don't know, 2006, 7, sort of a blur, really.
2004.
4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, what happened after that?
So we were still connected with our old church, and I was volunteering with Upward Soccer.
That's right.
If anybody remembers or knows of Upward Soccer, it's a religious or a church organized,
Yeah.
soccer and basketball and all that. And so I was involved with that because Landon and Jacob were playing soccer. And I don't know where you want me to go with this, but was spending a lot of time with, people that were not my husband.
Yeah. Perfect.
And honestly developed an emotional relationship with somebody else. And yeah, and emotional affairs are definitely more strong than and harder to break than the other. Because with women, we are very emotional people.
Do you think because that a lot of that emotion can be very easily hidden?
Yes. Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't feel neglected or anything by you. I don't remember feeling neglected. I don't remember feeling anything really, or why. I don't have a reason for it. I didn't, it's not like, I don't know. But again, I'd been with you since I was 16. I didn't know anything else.
Yeah. I remember going through some of that and having some conversations, and a lot, it seemed to really was, just your identity. Because you really didn't live life without me for the most part.
I was always, it was always Donnie and Celeena.
Right. It was always us. Right. And so I think some of that appeal, especially, people that maybe start dating or connect younger in life. Right. And maybe that appeal of venturing out of some sort was a draw of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could have been many things.
And I remember that's something that, going through all that and getting counseling and stuff, that's one thing that was brought up that was like, who was Celeena?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I was a mom and a wife.
Right.
Was that all there was to me? I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
Right. And hey, y'all stay tuned because I know this is getting really deep right here. And, you may be watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? I thought it was a business show, but it'll come to the end and sort of, you'll figure out why what we're doing now and why and the connection and all that stuff. So, yeah.
So that happened. And I finally came clean to you about it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started really questioning my relationship with the Lord and really desiring to seek him more because I knew that he could help me with the situation, because I didn't want to be in the situation I was in. I didn't want anything different, but I couldn't get out of it. I felt like I was stuck. I couldn't break that bond or that bondage, that chain. And so I really started, and then that's when the Lord's like, you need to confess, anything that's in the dark needs to come to light. That's the only way that it's going to get fixed. And so I finally came to you and told you what was going on. And I remember how it made you feel. And I think it stirred up a beginning of a lot of anger and bitterness with you.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Because as far as my viewpoint at that moment, right, I was like, everything I've done, my whole purpose in life was to serve and to love and to nurture and to protect. Right. And obviously there was a lot of betrayal feelings like that come in. And, so I got pretty angry, to be honest with you. And what's crazy is like, for you to still have compassion for me, you still loved me.
Oh yeah.
I had no doubt in my mind. Right. And I saw the inner struggle that you were dealing with. Right. And so I was trying to be as just patient and as loving as possible. It's almost like that whole thing. You could keep a bird in a cage and it's like, I can call her mine or I can let her go. And if she flies back, then I really know she loves me. Right. Even better. So I tried to have the sort of open-handed in the relationship. But then you saw one day that there was a door hanger on our front door. And I remember coming home from work and there was a coupon, like a free class or something like that for martial arts.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a door hanger.
Yeah.
Just your typical old school by the rubber band that you used to get back in the old days, right? Do they still do those anymore? I think they do.
Yeah. And then so I was thought, wow, maybe I can do that, right? And so I loved UFC had just gotten started around that time, and this martial arts school was right down the street.
Well, and you're always an adventurous person.
Oh yeah,
So I think it was more your adventure side
probably
that drew it to you.
Yeah, probably so. And so I started training in martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah,
particularly.
Yeah, and thinking that would be a great outlet for me, that like a coping mechanism while we go through this.
Yeah, because I mean, I think at that time, from what I thought at the time, we had kind of reconciled. I got rid of that old life, and we, what I thought forgiveness was there, apologies and all that, but there was stuff you were dealing with that I didn't know about.
Right. Yeah. And completely. Right. And I knew at that time that you were 100% back.
Oh yeah.
I knew it. Right. I knew it. But sometimes, I always tell people that don't trust your feelings, because a lot of times your feelings will lie to you.
Yeah.
And you can easily talk yourself into things.
Oh yeah.
And talk yourself out of things. Right. If you want a car, man, you could talk yourself into buying that car and justify it, or vice versa. Right. And so, I started martial arts, and it was a great outlet. It was, and sort of got wrapped up into that. And I was like, you know what? I want to compete in cage fighting. Right. So I started doing some cage fighting. Well, through all that, I had gotten into a relationship as well too, outside the marriage. I think a lot of it stemmed from really looking back is like, well, two things. Number one, the hurts that I felt. And then the second thing was just not fully being able to know how to communicate and
Satan already had a foothold in the relationship too.
Yeah.
And, I think during this time, if I can remember, I don't remember you being on as fire as I'd seen you in the past.
Oh no.
So therefore there's no, I think there was a kink in the relationship you had, and so therefore Satan, gets his foot in there and.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, cause I think I had been on, so dedicated to a certain way, and then
it didn't work. You felt like, I'm like, well, everything I've done didn't work. So why do it? And I'm just going to do for myself now or whatever.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Ready to boost your business's impact? Fully Promoted Fort Worth is your one-stop destination for branding needs, specializing in branded apparel and promotional products. They help attract, retain, and engage customers. From custom uniforms to eye-catching items, Fully Promoted Fort Worth has you covered. Contact them today to unlock your brand's potential. 817-803-4404. Fully Promoted, your success, their passion.
And so it's very easy to be, swayed and moved. And then you start,
then you pick your circle at that point.
True story, right? Pick the wrong circle, listen to the wrong people,
Yep.
Hide things I shouldn't have hid, things like that. And one thing led to another. I come home one day after work and decide, you know what? I think this grass on the other side looks greener, and I'm going to go try it. And I set the kids down. I think they were
6, 8, and 10, or maybe a little bit
younger than that.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, they were almost.
Yeah, I'd say
so.
Whatever, 7,
5,
8,
7,
9, and 10, something like that.
5, 7, 9.
Set them down. Yeah, 5, 7, 9. That's exactly what they were. Set them down and said, "Hey, just want to let all y'all know that I'm going to be divorcing your mom, and I'm going to be moving out."
Yeah, that was a tough day.
That was a tough day.
I was angry that day.
I could imagine. Right. And I was so broken and sad that it's like, sort of felt numb.
Yeah.
Right. So it felt completely numb. It really, looking back at it now, it really feels like a total.
It's an out of body experience. And that's what I felt whenever I was going through my stuff. It's like, I knew what was going on, and I knew it was wrong, and I knew it needed to come to a stop, but I could not do it for I don't know what the issue was. So, I know exactly what it feels like.
Yeah. And then, so set them down. And of course, I couldn't imagine being that little, and then your whole world, everything that is secure and just comes crashing down. Right.
Yeah. Especially whenever we didn't really fight in front of the kids.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really fight anyway, but like I think it's healthy to let your kids know that you're struggling in a relationship.
I agree.
They need to see that because, they need to know that that's normal. But we didn't. And so I think, they didn't know what to think.
Right.
And I'm sure with each of them and their personalities, Landon probably felt, guilt and shame, something that he did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob just
felt pissed.
Yeah. And then Gracie, I mean, she was 5. She just, as long as I had my mom and my dad, she didn't know what that meant. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then so, I filed for divorce. I think it was
fast, man. It's like,
well, and again, if I do something, I'm going to go all in, right? And so,
I think you just wanted to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't think, what I mean?
Didn't let it prolong.
Yeah.
So
that was August of 2009.
Yeah.
And we were divorced by November 13th, not the 14th. And God knew what he was doing.
That way,
preserving that 1/4 date, right?
Yeah.
But I remember November 13th is when I got the call saying it was
official.
You left the courthouse and it was official.
Yeah. And again, out of body experience, totally weird. It's really a blur right now just because, it's been such a long
15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so, I start looking, I'm like, okay, well, I need a place to live. And, I think I stayed with
your brother.
I think I stayed with my brother for a little bit.
And then got a little duplex in Joshua or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Little duplex. And it felt cold. It had no carpet in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it felt like a dungeon. And I felt like I was just trapped in this life, and which I caused it. So,
yeah. But me during that time, now I'm really like, I'm not mad. I'm hurt. I'm sad, scared.
Yeah.
Stay-at-home mom. Been a stay-at-home mom for however old the kids are, right?
Yeah.
So 9 years. And I had to go back to work. I mean, I'd been subbing at the schools and I'd worked the extended day program for the district, but it was part-time, and so I had to go back to work. And so, cause I had the house and I had a car.
Yep.
So what do you do whenever you hadn't worked since you were 21, didn't really have a career before that, and you go back to work as a 32-year-old, 31-year-old mom now?
Yeah.
So that was a struggle, but I found a job and it was a commute. So with the help of, my little sister moved in with me to help with the bills, and she needed a place to stay. And then my mom helped with the kids. But I went back to work full time, something that I hadn't done. And I was more mad that I felt you were robbing me of the time with my kids than I was about being divorced. I was more mad about that than, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm supposed to be at home with my kids, and look what you did.
Yeah.
And I had expressed that to you, and that comes later in the story. But so I went back to work full time and had to make ends meet, and and then that's when my journey with the Lord happened. So the experience you had in August of 98, I had it in August, September, October, November of 2009. So I was on fire at that point. So much to the point that if you never came back, it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I had that faith. I had that, I literally heard from God for the first time, owned my own faith for the first time in however many years we had been saved, right? 10, 11 years. And so, that was my time. And so I'm thankful for it, because it wouldn't have happened any other, unless all that happened. Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep. And so, 9 months later, I had been out with, I have no idea who.
Well, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
Been out on a Saturday night, and I remember Sunday morning, or a Sunday morning.
It was in March.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was early March.
Waking up, and the feeling that I got was, and it wasn't like an audible voice or nothing. It was just this deep feeling of God telling me, I put y'all together, and y'all are still together in my eyes. I don't care what the law says. And if you will work it out, I will take you places you will never know. And that's what I felt. So then I sat there in my room in this little duplex.
Your dungeon.
My dungeon, thinking, what? How's that phone call going to work? Hey, dear.
Yeah.
I got something to say. But I did. I was like, you know what? My whole, I guess, personality is like, you know what? If this is the way we're going to go all in.
Yeah.
And so I called you up or something, and it's like, hey, I need to talk. And you're like, sure. And before we get into that, 9 months of people trying to set you up with guys, go out, which you did. I mean, not go out with guys, but you went out, you tried to experience life, right? But what was your thinking during that time as far as the relationship between us?
I mean, I kind of always felt that wasn't the end for us. But at the time, I thought it was just my delusion, like my wishful thinking or whatever. But there was always something that like I was almost to the point where I was done. Like if you would have called me a week or two later, it probably would have been too late. But just because I was just done with holding on to something that I didn't know a timeline for or whatever.
Yeah.
But I never saw life without you. It's hard to explain. But it's like, it's not like, oh, I know he'll be back. I'm waiting on it. It was like, I never really verbalized it. It's just a feeling that I had. So but I was also to the point where not done as I'm going to go date other guys or whatever, but it was just like, I'm done fighting, I'm
let life go.
Let life go. And whatever happens, happens. So,
So I called you up and it's like, hey, we need to talk. And I remember coming over.
You were hungover.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
I was going to skip that part, but don't worry about it.
Hey, but that's your rock bottom.
Yeah, no, true. It was.
Completely. I mean, that's your rock bottom.
Yep. And I just remember telling you that and saying, hey, look, I think we need to work this out.
And I cautiously accepted, as I do. I put up walls.
Yeah.
I was like, because I do remember in December you being around.
Yeah.
And you came to the house. We had like a Christmas party or something. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's back. And then the next day you were gone.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's why I was like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. Or, that's just your guilt from your long night talking or whatever. So I had a wall up.
Yeah. And I remember it was a good month or two, really, of us talking.
Yeah. I mean, we had agreed that if this is something that's going to happen, number one, you weren't just going to move right back in. We weren't going to pick up where we left off. We knew that because we had also, and we hadn't said that, but we had also been having our own little counseling sessions. You've been talking to somebody. So we were working on ourselves, talking about how, we were broken people. We weren't healed. And so we had to heal whatever was within us to have a healthy marriage. So, I was fixing myself anyway. I mean, I know you were talking to somebody and you were getting direction from wise counsel. So we knew that we had to fix each other in order to have a healthy
fix ourselves
before we could have a healthy relationship. So, I mean, it was, something that we knew that we would have to like ease back into, like start from the beginning, basically, the dating, there wasn't going to be any sleepovers. You weren't moving right back in, we were going to take it slow because again, I didn't know what at that time, I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, but there was a time, it wasn't that day, and I don't remember when it happened. Because the whole time that this is going on, I'm like, this is not Donnie. This is not the man I married. This is not my husband. This is a totally different person. And there finally was a time where I'm like, that's the guy that I married. And so that's whenever I was able to be like, okay, I can let my guard down a little bit. We can talk about things. Now I can start talking about the future.
Yeah.
And so it took some time to see that old Donnie or the Donnie come back.
Right.
For me to,
one thing that really sticks in my mind that really helped us, because it's one thing to share our story, right? But if we can't give any kind of helpful tips or whatever when it comes to relationships, then I think it's sort of useless. But one thing that really helped me, and I think it helped both of us, was, just making sure in the relationships, especially during that time, right? There was so much uncertainties, some hurts, some unassurances of what happened and things like that.
Yeah.
That we were going to be like, you know what? If there's any question you have, I'm going to answer it.
Yep.
And if you don't want to answer, you don't want to ask, that's okay. But if you ask, then
we have to answer.
I will answer it 100%. If you like the answer or not, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah. And it would hurt.
Yeah.
But I think again, it's that bringing that stuff into the light, exposing it.
Yeah.
Definitely keeps you from wanting to do it again. And because you can see how it makes you can literally see how that makes the other person feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that really helped me, is that if I did have questions, that I knew you committed and I did too, that we were going to tell each other the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And there were some things I'm like, I really don't care to
It
know.
didn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
Right. But there were some things like, okay, I want to know.
Yeah.
Right. And that just helped, I think, build me up to, it's like, okay, it helped build trust.
Yeah. Well,
back again. Yeah. Right. It helped build
if she's
trust.
willing to answer that hard question, or if he's willing to answer that hard question, then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was pretty beneficial.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you remember during that time that really helped you build the trust back, or?
Yeah, just like, obviously in the process, when the air changed, or when there was a certain smell or that reminded you of the hard times, right? That would make you feel sad or hurt again. You remember how you felt. And so just being available, calling you and being like, hey, I'm having a sad moment.
Okay. I remember one of those. I was working at the RV store, and I was up on a roof of an RV, and I don't know, I was doing an inspection, maybe an estimate or something like that, and phone ring, it was you. And so I'd promised myself, anytime that you call, if it's, if at all possible, I'm going to answer the phone. And you were having one of those moments,
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I just need to talk. I just need to hear your voice. I forget even the conversation.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
I just remember how you felt and where I was at. And so I just sat down there. I sat down right on the top of that roof, feet hanging off the edge of an RV. And I was just sitting there talking to you.
And the conversations weren't long, right? It was just like, hey, I feel sad.
Yeah.
Just want to let you know. Okay, what can I do? Nothing. It wasn't like you fixed anything right there, but it was just letting you know. And that also prepared you to what to come home to also, right? Like, okay, she had a sad moment today.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But yeah, that was just something that was important to me. It was like, if you had a sad moment, or if something was sparking a memory and it was hurtful or whatever, not to say, remember how you made me feel? It was just, hey, I'm just feeling this way and just want to let you know.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yep. And then just knowing that I could be available for you during that time, and that there wasn't a big expectation of, hey, you need to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, hey, I loved whenever you would say, hey, I just need to tell you this, and I don't expect you to do it.
Well, and we learned a lot of that in some training, I guess, because we did try couples counseling before the divorce, right? And we learned how to talk to one another and how to communicate and how not to push buttons and, just getting off the fear cycles and stuff. So that being able to instill some of that training helped too. And it really worked. We figured we found out our love languages. We found out what words push each other's buttons, and learned how to really communicate with each other. Yeah. Yeah. That was helpful too.
Very, very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And then, so I said, you know what, whenever you're ready, I'm all in, and I want to remarry you, and I want you to be my wife again. So whenever you're ready, you let me know. And
not quite.
How did that go?
I mean, we had conversations about it, right? And, we obviously had to wait till your lease was up in your,
duplex,
in your
dungeon. Yeah.
But, we were at church in Alvarado at Greenbrier.
Yeah.
I remember they got their new building, and, I wasn't expecting it, but, you had a bread tie.
I did.
You made into a ring. And then at church, because everybody knew our story. We were members of that church.
Yeah.
And so everybody kind of knew what we were going through and had been there through our journey. I mean, you continued to go to the church. I did not. But then when we started reconciling, and I remember when we walked into church together, people were like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" You know?
Yeah.
But no, it was after the service, you got down in front of the whole church.
Did I really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember.
This is how I remember it.
Go ahead. No, I'm sure it's right.
All right, Chuck. If you're watching this, in the comments, how did it go down? Because you have the memory of an elephant. Anyway, but yeah, and it was a freaking twisty tie from like a bread tie or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's when you proposed for the second time.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah. Anyway,
Actually, it is coming to my. You're right.
Yeah, I think I am. But.
Yeah. And then so in May, and so here's the thing, right? Because we were first married on May 2nd.
Because May 14th wasn't on a Saturday in 98.
That's true. That's true. And you had to get married on a Friday or Saturday, right? Because venues, so we decided, hey, instead of getting remarried on May 2nd, let's do May 14th, because really we like
the 14th.
We like the 14th because that's been a date.
Yeah. January 14th was always been, So 14's our number, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so we got remarried on May 14th.
2010. 2010. Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, right? At that point, it's like, okay, we've wrecked our life. You know, I'm way financially in debt, a lot more than I was before we're going into this.
Oh, come on. You have a saying.
Yeah. I mean, marriage is grand, but divorce is 50 grand. I'll just say that. Right. And so, we were really, really in debt. And so that's what you married, baby. You got me. Right.
Yeah.
But I decided at that point, I was like, you know what? I have to do something, because you were now working full time.
Still.
And then, I still had my job, and I was like, you know what? I want to do something where you can be a stay-at-home mom again. And that was my whole purpose in the beginning, was to get you back home.
Yeah.
And then to build the family back up. And then, so I'd asked my instructor, Nick, in which he's been on the show before, and said, hey, I would really love to open up a martial arts school, that way I can work in the evening, because a lot of martial arts schools are closed during the day. So it allowed me to have a full-time job and, work at night. And he said, well, I have a location in Fort Worth. It hasn't been open very long. Matter of fact, it's not doing very well. So if you would want to buy in on it, then, I'll give you a good price. And that's relative, right? To the person that that's buying it.
Yeah.
Didn't have the money at all to buy it. And I went to a bank, and they said no. Yep. So I had no way of going down this road. And I remember sharing the story with our neighbors at the time. And a couple weeks later or something like that, the husband had come up and said, hey, this martial arts school that you want to buy, I want to fund it for you. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I want to give you the money to buy this, to buy in on this martial arts school. And I was like, man, I don't like owing people anything, and I can't do that. And he said, well, I am taking money out of my 401k to redo our kitchen. And I'm taking extra money out and giving it to you. So if you buy the school or not, the money's yours. And I was like, wow. I said, well, let's think about it before we go down that route. Right. And so we did, and we really felt like this was a great opportunity.
Yeah. And with every intention of paying him back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, pay me back whenever, but I'm not worried about it. And so, we did. We were able to, buy out and buy into the school. And then that Saturday, I showed up. And I don't know if you were with me or not. I may have been by myself.
I was with you.
Yeah.
If it was a Saturday, I was with you.
Yeah. We showed up, and there was 16 people there. That's who actually showed up to train that day. Not all at once, but there was a few of them that showed up, and they later in life told me that on that day that you showed up,
we were there to quit.
They were there to quit, and they had all intents and purposes to go in and stop training. But, we met you and your wife, and we were like, this is different. They're different. Let me stick around. And 3 of them actually stayed with us to get their black belts.
Mhm.
Right. And then, so I remember roughly about, for the next 3 months,
It was
working
it was
full
rough. Yeah,
time.
both of us working full time. Both of us at the school.
At
me
the
going
school.
home to get the kids ready for bed and dinner. And
Yeah. You would show up there with me.
Yeah.
And then
I'd leave early.
a couple hours later, you would
Mhm.
leave and I would stay there until 10 or whatever and close the school down. And then finally, about 2.5, 3 months later, you were able to quit your day job. And I said, look, we're making enough.
Yeah.
That you can quit your day job.
Well, and you needed my help answering the phones because you had
Absolutely.
to answer the phones at work. And
Yeah.
I couldn't because I was on a call center and there's no way I was going to be able to answer the phone calls. So.
Yeah. So you left work finally and got to stay home with the kids.
Yeah.
And that was such a huge blessing for me. I felt so good about those efforts and the time spent on that. And then it seemed like it just continued every month after that, just continued to climb and climb. And I say climb. I mean, there was many months that,
Yeah, there's some months that you freaked out. Yeah.
Yeah. We only had like 2 or 3 students enroll for the whole month. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
we're going to die. But I kept pushing forward. I just knew that this was going to be something good. And 2 years later, after that day of taking over the school, I said, you know what, today's the day I'm going to go to work and I'm going to quit my job. We weren't.
And we weren't, yeah, we were working towards it. We were paying off
Yeah.
all the debt and got
Yep.
everything paid off and everything but the house,
Yeah.
so that we could make that transition.
And for about 3 or 4 months, we said, okay, all the money that we get from your full-time job, we're not going to use it. We're just going to put it back
Yeah.
in savings.
Yeah.
That way we could see if we can live on just what the martial arts school provided. And we were able to. And so I went in and I remember coming home that day and you were like, all right, how'd it go? I said, well, they gave me a raise and I'm staying.
Yeah.
And, which is very typical, right? For places that, if you have a good employee or whatever, you're like, hey, I'm give them a raise, they stay and whatever. And then probably 3 or 4 months later, it's like, you know what? Enough's enough.
Yeah. You got a phone call on a Sunday from your boss,
Remember that.
and he knew what we had been going through. You know, we were maybe a year out now from being remarried.
Yeah.
And he knew what you had gone through and he was mad because you didn't take his phone call on a Sunday.
Mm.
And that Monday he was like, when I call, you answer. And you're like, I was home with my family, and he didn't care.
Yeah.
And I think that was like,
Yeah.
I lost my family once. I'm not doing it. And you're not, this isn't worth it. I'm not
Right.
now. Even if I go and do this martial arts thing and I fall on my face.
Yep.
This ain't where it's at. This
Yeah.
ain't it. Yeah.
Exactly what happened. And
Yeah.
then so went in and I remember not him, but another supervisor gave him my keys and said, hey, I'm out of here. I'll see you later. And he's like, oh, no, I got my own keys. I don't need yours. I can lock up. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm not coming back. Like ever. This is it. The one thing I do regret, I really do regret this. I wish on that day that I would have scheduled either a limo or a helicopter to come pick me up.
Yeah.
I really did. I wish I would have had a limo or a helicopter come pick me up.
Yeah.
And that way I'd left.
I would have made a scene in Podunk Alvarado at an RV dealership.
But his last words was, this isn't going to work. And 90% of all small businesses fail and you're going to come back.
Which is true.
Oh, it's totally true. Right. I mean, not the failing part, but the small businesses.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm either going to, do good at this or I'm going to end up firing myself because I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
But I have to try it.
Yeah.
I have to try it. And there was just this burning desires. Like I have to leave corporate and I have to try my own thing. And I just knew that if I could just spend a little bit more time working on the business, that it could grow even more.
Yeah. And knowing what we know now, that's statistically, that's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I recommend a lot of people is like, you have 2 boats, right?
So here's your business plug for you Biz Life people.
That's right. Here it is. So if you have a side job, a side hustle, and you have your main job, my recommendations is always that you try to straddle both boats, right? Mm-hmm. And you never just jump into the side hustle boat and leave the other one. You have to straddle both until the point is where you don't need the money off your main job. Put that back in savings, get you a nest egg, whatever you feel comfortable with
3 months
before you jump ship.
Yeah.
Right. So many people, they jump ship because they're like, oh, I got this plan and this whole business plan and it takes longer than you expect. It's going to cost you more than you expect.
Always.
So if at all possible, and some side hustles you can't do this, but if you can, straddle both for a good amount of time until you feel comfortable at jumping ship. And that's what we did. And it really worked out because once I left that full-time job, I was able to invest more energies and time into the business, and it went up exponentially.
Yeah. And I was able to help out more. We were doing this together now.
Yeah. And at that point, we had roughly almost 250 students at the time.
Yeah.
Active students on the mat training within a couple of years. Yeah. And here's the thing that I really love about this story is that, what was really meant for us to be torn apart brought us closer together. Because now, not only do we have our own small business that we own, you're full-time stay-at-home mom with kids again. I'm now sort of a full-time stay-at-home mom, or dad with you, which is a weird transition. I got home that first day, and the next day I'm like, all right, been working on my life, and I'm at home with you now. What are we doing? And what did you say?
I don't know what we're doing or you're doing, but I have to do the laundry, and the floors need to be done, and I got to go get the kids later. And so he just thought, I'd sit with my feet up all day. I don't know.
I didn't know what you did.
But so I like, you got to figure it out.
Yeah, it was a really, really
weird, it was a weird transition.
Bizarre transition. Really felt like fish out of water, right?
Yeah.
And so I really needed your guidance at that point, right? Because I'm more in a routine, 6 o'clock, get up, 6:30, leave, work by 7:30, leave by 4, get to the karate school at 5, work till 10, get home, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Right. And so now it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So I did look to you for guidance on that. And not that I remember, wise words or wisdom that you gave me, but help me. And, and you did. And we sort of figured it out, but now we're working together full time, and have ever since.
Yeah.
The kids.
2011.
Yeah.
August of 2011. Yep.
And you love it still, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Good. But the kids then were able to grow up in the martial arts school as well too.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody our kids have drug problems whenever they're younger. Like what? Like, I drug them to martial arts every day. Right.
Yeah.
But they were there and they loved it. And it was sort of this time that it's like their family, their life was completely ripped apart. And now we have nothing but time and a space that we can connect and learn together and grow together. And I think it really helped them cope through that time. Yeah. And here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have them on the show as well too.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be super cool. So if you're watching this episode, in 2 weeks, we're going to have the kids on here and you're going to hear their side of the story as well too. So that'll be super fun.
Yeah. But a lot of people are like, you and Donnie are always together. You and Celeena are always together, and like, and that's how it's going to be. It's a package deal. Sorry. I mean, how many meetings have I been where it's, you and Nick and me, right? Or you and somebody and me, and it's like, that's just how it's going to have to be now. Yeah. And that's the way it was, designed.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then, so at that point, right, we started, we partnered up with Nick and we started helping grow the TXBBA brand. And you're right. It was me, you, and Nick, right? Seemed like almost every day for coffee, talking about business and just pouring ourselves into growing all this. And then, 2020? We were on a vacation with some friends, and we found the brand Grace Craze down in Key West. Yeah. And at that time, after going through the whole COVID debacle and everything, closing the martial arts school down, going on Zoom to teach people martial arts on Zoom is a really weird time, right? Meeting people for the first time over Zoom. And
it was strange.
Very strange. But, again, adapt and overcome. Yep. And we did. But we thought, well, we need to get into a different business or something that's That way,
more product based
more-
and service based. Yeah.
yeah, we're thinking, okay, food
And
because
food, because that
essential.
exploded during 2020, because that's all you could do is eat and go for a walk.
Right. So it's going to be either food or alcohol. And so we chose food.
Yeah.
Well, and now,
Well, we serve beer and wine,
but yeah, so we got into that brand and now we're again working together, right? Even more.
Yeah.
The beauty of it is shortly after, I said in the very beginning of taking over the martial arts school and get into that business, that my number one goal was to get you at home, and so you could be a stay-at-home mom again that you felt called to.
Yeah.
But also I wanted to build some kind of legacy that our kids could have benefit from later in their life, right? And it's been such a joy to me to have the kids working in the business.
Yeah.
That we get to now, not only do we get to spend time together just about every day, right? But now we get to spend time with our kids every day, and they're in the business with us, right? They're making those decisions on the business. They're helping grow the business. And one day, we're able to step back and they're going to continue to take that legacy on.
That's the plan.
Yeah. And so that's the whole full circle, I think, of this story. I don't think we're done yet, but
No.
that's where we're at today.
And look, we're not special.
No.
Right? People go through stuff all the time. People have their redemption moments and I get that, but you have a podcast and you get to talk about it. And we always said that if the opportunity arises, that we would always talk about it.
Yep.
That's one thing we told the Lord and those who held us accountable. And, if anybody asks, we were going to be transparent. And, because the thing is, and this isn't anything in life, business struggles, financial struggles, personal struggles, marriage, whatever, is you're not the only one going through what you're going through. And people just don't talk about it because they're embarrassed or, ashamed or whatever. But, when I was going through divorce care, I realized there's a lot more people that are in the church. Husbands were serving, wives were serving, whatever, that are going through what I went through. Because, you feel like an outcast.
Yeah.
If your business is failing, you feel like you've done something wrong or you're an outcast or you're a failure or whatever, when there are so many people out there struggling in their small business, and so they need to hear that you struggled. And we struggled with the businesses too. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, we've had schools open and we've had schools closed. We've had owners change, and what's going to happen with anything. It's it just happens, but it's what you learn from it. And, are you going to let it just ruin you, or are you going to persevere through it and move on to the next thing? I would definitely be more of shutting down, but I have you to kind of drag me.
Come on, honey, we got this.
Yeah.
The cheerleader.
Okay.
Let's go.
But but anyway.
And so, I mean, thank you for saying that. I couldn't have said it any better. Right. And we're not special. We're just, I think when looking back at it, it's like, how did we make it work? You just did.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I said at that moment that we had gotten remarried, I said, look, we're either going to be happy and married for the rest of our life, or we're going to be
unhappy
and married for the rest of our life. But I promise you, over my dead body, that's never going to happen again. Yeah. Right. And I knew you felt the same way. So I knew that, this would work out. Yeah. And so, and thank you for saying that about the businesses as well too. Right. I mean, last year was a very, very tough year for us. Yeah. Actually, the last couple of years, really.
End of 2023. So mid-year till about December.
Yeah. And, so we've gone through some very difficult, struggling times, right? And it just seems like no matter what's happened, it seems like something's always being provided.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow, some way.
Definitely been fed manna.
Yeah, something has always been provided. And so, it's looking back, it's like, man, we haven't been without it all. One bit. In the midst of it, it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive till tomorrow?
Yeah.
But looking back, it's like, wow, we were completely taken care of. And so, yeah, looking forward to where it goes, and looking forward to next couple weeks whenever we can have the kids on here and
Yeah, it's gonna be
share
fun.
their story. Yeah, I don't think they'll see what they say. Maybe like, y'all suck.
Well, Gracie will probably cry.
Ah, no. Yeah,
Jacob will have something sarcastic to say, and Landon will just take the show.
yeah.
That's my prediction.
Oh, I don't know, Jacob. He's a showstopper.
Yeah, with his sarcasm and wittiness.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey guys, thank y'all so much for watching and bearing with us as we, muddle through 31 years of history. There's a lot more, of course, that we could share in depth and all that stuff. But all I got to say is, listen, if you're struggling in your business or your marriage or anything in life, know that, there's ways to overcome. There's definitely ways to overcome. So keep pushing forward. And, I've always said I'm an open book and I'm available anytime.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you are as well too. So
Sure.
many have reached out and, we've had a chance to share this with them personally in their own, and they've responded with, great success. As they've,
Have their own testimony.
move forward in life. So, I would say, I just say, pay it forward and keep your ears open, because someone will need your help one day. So, anyway, got any final parting words?
No, I'm complete.
Okay, me too. All right. Hey, thank y'all again for watching the Biz Life, and please share, like, subscribe out. It helps the algorithm. We'll see you next time on the Biz Life.